Hello and welcome to this demonstration of TrueChart for Qlik Sense. My name is Ralf Ginzinger. I'm COO of High Coordination Switzerland and responsible for partner enablement. I will guide you through the demo today and show you all the different functionality that we built in this application. Everything that you see has been built in the Qlik Sense client. We don't use Mashup or any coding. Everything has been built by just using TrueChart and Qlik Sense objects. The demo is also available on our webpage www.truechart.com. Let's start. On the first sheet here, we see an overview of all the available modules in this application. We have the welcome page, we have finance, sales, HR, geoanalytics, and a help and feature guide. So let's directly start with the first sheet, finance. On the finance sheet, we see the probably most iconic chart and table for finance, a P&L. We chose the P&L because it shows pretty good that a table can be much more than just showing numbers. And in this particular table, if you're familiar with IBCS, you probably feel pretty welcome already. If you don't know what IBCS is, you'll understand the principle in the next 15 seconds. With IBCS, there is an agreement. It's an international business communication standard. That same thing should always look the same and mean the same thing. In this specific case, we have two different time perspective and a different scenario. The time perspective for previous year is gray, as it's in the past. Actual is black for current period, and the scenario forecast is a pattern of white and black. Our deltas to previous year and forecast are visualized in red and green, where red always means bad or negative and green always means good, positive. So what we see here is a P&L from revenue over costs to contribution margin, and then two more steps, the EBIT and net income, once for absolute values and once for the margins themselves in percent of revenue below here. The needles here are the IBCS standard to show percentage values. All the other values that are visualized are properly scaled to each other. That means that those 2 million scale properly to these 3.9 million, which is one of the pillars and one of the top 10 rules of IBCS. But we don't just see a chart here or a table with charts integrated. We also see the so-called menu bar. The menu bar is part of the Qlik enhancement package. So this is only available for Qlik, and it's the object on the left-hand side as well as on the top of the screen. It enables or it enhances Qlik by an abundance of additional functionality, different triggers, the possibility to group selection items and include logos and a lot of different other functionality that you might be familiar with already if you've been working with Qlik View in the past. So let's have a look at the different possibilities that we have on that sheet. Of course, we can do selections. So here we have one example where we group different selections of different fields into one group called region. So in region, we have the country, the city, the product, and the customer. So let's say if we select Switzerland, that we of course select in the country Switzerland. Also notice that on the right-hand side, now of course the visual has changed as always in Qlik, and you probably have seen that we can get a completely different visual impression of the changes, where if you compare it with the selection before, where our revenue has been increased and costs have been cut, in Switzerland revenue has decreased significantly. To the left here, negative impact, and the costs have been cut even more significantly, leaving us with a positive result at the end. Going down the line here, we have product, for instance. If I select the product group food, it might be that this selection is not to be combined with my P&L to the lowest level. So in this case, it has been configured that if anything on product level is being selected, that we just show a minimized version of the P&L to the contribution margin. There are other selection criteria, and we don't have to go through any of them, through all of them, because it's always the same principle. Some functionality that's been prepared is like a share button, which means if you click on the share button, an email will open and a link is generated. And if the recipient of this email is clicking on the link, the same sheet with the same selection, same application that you have been when clicking on share will open for that person. Document chaining will just directly open another application applying the same selections that you currently have. If you don't like the styling here at all, or if you have a different styling, no worries. With the menu bar, we can apply all different kinds of styles, or you can build your own style. Like here, this Turkish street, which has our internal nickname of eye cancer, and that's why we go back to TrueChart. So no worries, we can style this as you like and make it really look good and also apply to your corporate design standards. There's two more buttons just to indicate some additional functionality that we can add, like switch between year to date and month, which does exactly what it says. We switch between a monthly view and a year to date view. Of course, there is an almost unlimited way of adding other additional functionality. So I think you get the idea here too. One last thing I want to show here is also one of the most important ones, because it's entirely new functionality for a BAI platform like Qlik, and this is the commenting that it can do directly in the platform. So for comments, you see there have been created some comments here already. So comments can be added, and if I'm allowed to and I'm able to go into the comment mode, there can be a whole process behind it on making sure that only the right person for the right set of data is able to edit and or view the comments. So not everyone is allowed to do everything. Let's say I want to say this is here a good development compared to last year and to the forecast, because we're ahead in both cases. And then I want to just add my 2 cents here, and I can format this, and I can click OK, and I go back to show, and now the comment is shared. And if the process allows it, the numbers and the values are now available for everyone immediately. The comments are stored in a SQL database and are distributed to all different applications and technologies at the same time. So this allows us also to have comments that are available in Qlik Sense or have been maintained in Qlik Sense, and make them also available in Excel or Power BI JetX or vice versa. Okay, so let's move on to the next sheet. On the sales sheet, we built a sales sheet to show that with TrueChart we can reach quite high information density. So that means we can optimize the usage of the space, and this allows us to bring a quite high amount of information into a limited space, which is sometimes necessary. What's also to be pointed out here is that the scaling here, again, everything that is the same value or value group will have the same scaling here. So these 982,000 scale properly to these 130,000, giving you the proper visual impression. All of these charts are, of course, completely dynamic, and you can still select. So let's say if you want to find out where the delta from the negative delta the previous year from Delhi is coming from, the 130,000, we can now drill in here. We see the total here, 130,000 again, 130,000 here again on this side for the time here. So we see that in January, August, September, October, November, we had quite significant differences to last year, primarily coming from our customer Road Warrior International. To deselect what I just did, I can bring back, you probably have noticed that something's missing here in Qlik Sense, that we bring back our selection bar. This is something we can hide using the menu bar because it gives us more space available for our objects, and it's not always necessary to show it. If we want to have even more space, we can also go full screen and hide the browser properties entirely. On the next sheet, we have a combination now of Qlik Sense default objects. So we have a box plot chart, a scatter chart, and a pivot table, just to show that you don't have to build everything using TrueChart. Even if you apply TrueChart for, in this case, for navigation and selection using the menu bar, you can still combine this with your existing Qlik Sense object. So I can still select Samantha Allen here in this chart, and it's completely properly linked to the menu bar and the TrueChart environment and the TrueChart world. So this is an important feature, important to understand that even if you want to use TrueChart primarily for your selection, you don't have to use it for everything. Moving forward to the next sheet. On this sheet here, on the HR sheet, we combine several different things. So you will probably notice first that we have a break in our visual representation of numbers. And this is to also break with the conception that TrueChart is just an IBCS tool. TrueChart is a visualization tool that is also certified IBCS. But if you choose to make diversity KPIs like here with pink for female and blue for male, and highlight the current month with a more saturated version of the blue and pink colors than the month before, then you're absolutely able to do that. On the left-hand side, however, we still have our IBCS conform selections. What's probably the most interesting part here on this sheet is the perspective commenting. Remember, we had the inline commenting on the financial sheet before. We were able to put in comments into tables, and in the time-based commenting here, we can just write any free text comment formatted as before and save it. We can write here as many comments as we want. So let's break in a second comment. And we cannot just comment here a whole perspective. We can, and this is making the difference here, we can also annotate our report. So let's say this first comment here is referring to this peak here in September. So I can just link it in here. And let's say the second comment is not just for the marketing number of employees we have, but also secondly for the total number of persons working with an age group of 39 and 30. So with the report annotation, we can annotate our reports, we can bring in text here, and we can link this text to our charts and other visual elements. Again, also here, I'm able to have a full process behind that. That means, again, that I can control and I have full control over who is able to edit and view comments and at what time, and also for which selection criteria, because all these comments are linked, if I choose to any of my selection criteria. So if I now go back to a previous month, which would be October of 2018, we see there is no comments for October because I put them in specifically for November. So these comments in this case are time-based, but they could also be based on the selection of regions, of a customer, of a sales representative, or effectively of any other dimension that I have available. Moving on to the next sheet. Here, as before with Qlik Sense, default objects. We just show a combination of the TrueChart elements in combination with other extensions. In this case, it's Qlik's own geoanalytics, where we have done a small preview or small analysis of the different offices and customers, where they are and how revenue is generated. And of course, I can do all these selections here in the menu bar, and they interact as they should with other extensions as well. So let's clear the selection here before we move on to the next. Let's hide this again and go forward. Last but not least, we have seen now proper ways to visualize, adding functionality to Qlik that we also know not just, but also from implementations in Qlik View. We've seen commenting in tables and in perspectives. So the last thing really missing is, now that we understand our values and what the numbers say, because they're properly visualized using IBCS, for instance, we are able to comment, so we can collect and share the knowledge within the organization on certain cases. The next thing missing is to act on this information. And we built a small showcase here using Bing's search engine. The reason for this is because we don't have any other proper web tool that we can use to showcase this, and I think the message would come across. So let's imagine the following case. You're working in your BI environment and you select a specific product group or customer, and for this customer you find out, oh, the revenue has decreased. There has been also no visits logged in our CRM to this customer. Even though it's a key customer, revenue is decreasing, we need to change this. So now you would probably go into your CRM, let's say Salesforce, log in, look for the customer, go down to the specific selection criteria, and then add a new activity or schedule a new activity. With TrueChart, we have the possibility with this BI platform of Qlik Sense that we integrate other elements, other web elements into our BI environment. And to showcase this, coming back to this use case here, we use the Bing search engine and link this to the data selections that we have. So on the right-hand side, you have this typical TrueChart object where we see the time development of whatever we have selected here. On the left-hand side, we have Microsoft's Bing search engine. So if we now select, for instance, a product group, let's say baked goods, what's doing is that the link is now adjusted in a way that we activate or we perform a search for baked goods. In addition to that, we see how the performance of baked goods is here. So we see the first half of the year was pretty awesome for baked goods. And in the second half of the year, all of this was burned somehow. So let's imagine that this is now our Salesforce or our ERP or whatever, and I can start doing things here. Position for magazine here. I can still interact with that web page here. And this is working for everything that I'm selecting here. So now I'm looking for the breakfast foods, and I see that breakfast foods are probably just sold in February and August. So here it's pretty obvious that we're just using test data, but I can interact with the data. And I can actually link everything into every web content into my BI platform. And another use case for this would be to link in knowledge database like a Confluence or a Jira or something else. Like in this case, we linked our TrueChart and menu bar feature guides, which are constantly updated on the homepage. So we never have to take care about what or to update the applications in terms of the knowledge database, because this is done in the background automatically. So this was it for the brief 20-minute introduction into the capabilities of the tool, and I hope you liked it, and see you next time.